my name is Lara and I'm your trainer for today on the 7 steps to healing loneliness, or the 7 steps to connecting. I am kind of an expert when it comes to loneliness and will share a bit about my journey with loneliness. Well, I moved to Australia only 10 years ago, and for 16 months I lived in a van all by myself, traveling a little bit around the country. By understanding and immersing myself deeply into the field of loneliness, I have also come to understand what true connection is. On the road, I met so many people who suffer from loneliness, and therefore I made it my mission to help people overcome loneliness and reconnect to themselves. I'm currently running a coaching business as well as my podcast, the Bliss Republic podcast. If you haven't subscribed to it yet, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, the Apple Podcast, or wherever else you listen to your podcast. Also have a look at my coaching website and the link in my bio. Today we will be talking about the 7 steps to getting from a state of loneliness to a state of connection. I am not using that many tools, but I would like to invite you to take your journal and a pen and reflect on the questions that I will prompt you with in this course. Pause the video after every question so that you can deeply reflect and then continue whenever you're ready. So what is loneliness? What do you believe loneliness is? The worst case of loneliness is the one that persists even when you're surrounded by people. The definition of loneliness says it's a negative feeling that arises when our social needs are unmet by the quantity and quality of our current social relationships. But I would say loneliness is our needs that aren't met by our own ability to love ourselves, respect ourselves, and nurture ourselves. When it comes to loneliness, we're dealing with separation, shame, and fear. So what is separation? The issue with separation is that we can do things to others without taking responsibility for it. Every crime that has ever happened was only possible because of the person committing the crime seeing themselves as both separate and disconnected from the person they've committed the crime against. Separation isn't just the most painful thing that is happening to us, but also the most dangerous. Now try to imagine that we're all one, that everything is just one, and that separation is only manufactured. Imagine your consciousness being one part of everyone else's consciousness, and that these consciousness together all create one big thing, one great ocean. One ocean created by the energy of everyone. So then when you have a thought, it isn't just your thought alone. It's a division of a greater consciousness. For example, every new business idea always generates at the same time in space. However, when we grow up, we unlearn and forget that we are part of all this. We start to only perceive self and the other. This is also the birth of the ego, which is the sense of separate self. And it was the birth of relationship, the bond that now artificially holds us together. And therefore, it is also the birth of attachment. Now, shame plays a really big role when it comes to loneliness, as it is the wish to be unseen in the pain of what feels to us as abandonment. It is equally the longing to be seen and held with tenderness and compassion. Again, we aren't born with this shame, but we develop shame in the moments of fragmentation. In the moments our caregivers failed to restore the bridge of innocence that collapsed. When a caregiver collapses this bridge, it's often not from a place of bad will, but rather a lack of education and awareness. But regardless, it's always the responsibility of the caretaker to restore this bridge, never the responsibility of the child. Now, shame works like a crystallization process, where the crystals start building inside a liquid once a particular saturation point has been reached. It's the same with the shame we hold in our loneliness. We believe we are happy until we suddenly hit a threshold that then makes us believe all the negative thoughts about ourselves. That we're lonely and no one likes us. And it's an entire distorted picture, as just right before hitting this threshold, the world looked very different. And because our ego does not like change, suddenly it will do everything to keep convincing you that you are lonely. But your ego is actually doing nothing but to help you self-abandon. So what is true connection? When we are born, we don't know that we are not our mother. We aren't yet differentiated. We don't have a sense of separation. We are our parents as much as they are us. We are the dog, the sibling, the nurse, the grandparents. But we are then conditioned to step away from a state of being to a state of doing when we are in school. But connection is our birthright. How is it then that we develop away from connection into a form of relational dependence? Well, we are born whole, but because of our separation, we had to make ourselves fit into relationships instead of just staying in oneness. Our families socialized us into kindergarten, schools, friendships, and other ties where we had to fit in with equally unevolved individuals without a handbook or training or plan for how this is done. We created relational dependence. And what we did learn, however, is that some aspects of ourselves are okay, whilst others are not. And of course, that construct in itself is different in every family. But aspects about ourselves that are seen as unwanted, independent of whether they're good or not, are pushed away by our family. Now, can you think of a good example for a positive but unwanted aspect? What happened to us in that moment is called fragmentation. Fragmentation in our outer world is nothing but a reflection of the fragmentation in our inner world. As children, we try to gain control of our environment and preserve ourselves and try everything we can do to disown, deny, and suppress these aspects of ourselves that are unwanted, just in order to survive. And then we exaggerate those aspects that are met with approval. But what we really do is disassociating with what we learn is disapproved of. And this creates a split within us that we now call conscious and subconscious. This is usually around the age of 11 to 14 years old when our personality and identity forms. Do you remember what life was like when you were that old? Now, the crucial thing here is that our first act of self-preservation is also our first act of self-rejection. Now, the reason for me doing this work is because I'm aware that our own splits in personality are really a reflection of the split in source consciousness when it tried to define itself, which created disunity. So when I help you, I help create unity in the world. Now, see yourself as a person with multiple personalities. Some of these personalities you are hiding in your subconscious, and they only come alive when you get triggered and you respond with fight, flight, or freeze, or any other coping mechanism. Now write it down. What are your coping mechanisms when you get triggered? Every single personality in you has its very own purpose. A friend of mine started naming them. One of her aspects compensates for a fragmentation wound in her, which reflects in overworking and being overly diligent. And she calls that aspect of herself Suzanne, and imagines her with a hairband and a whistle commanding people around. Now, can you think of some aspects within you that come up when you are challenged? What would you name these personalities? Most of us, especially everyone who has been socialized, which is everyone, we have parts that we have disowned and rejected, and parts of us that we have embraced. And the parts we have rejected are self-hate. The loneliness that we feel is the result of those rejected, disowned, and suppressed parts of ourselves. And the soul only wants one thing, and that is for us to be whole again. Now, where does the soul come from? To become whole again, we have to work with the aspects of us we have disowned and rejected, which can be a very painful process most of the time. For every conscious and exaggerated part of our personality, there's a matching part within our subconscious, which is the opposite. And that is why we feel disconnected. The exaggerated parts are completely obvious to you and others, but the hidden parts are obvious to others, but they're a blind spot for you. And here is the most disturbing and helpful fact. The more we hate something in someone else, the more we rejected it in ourselves a long time ago. And the opposite is also true. The more we love something in someone else, the more we have sorrowfully disowned it in ourselves. Now, these dislikes and likes in others are great indicators on where you need to start your healing journey. To integrate these parts of you, you have to bring them into awareness. Let's do an exercise. Take your journal. Now, I would like you to write down the answers and reflections to the following questions and prompts. Please pause the video after every point. Number 1, what are some negative traits you hate in others close to you? Number 2, what would you say are the positive intentions behind the thing you hate? What is it trying to keep you safe from? Number 3, why was it dangerous to be the opposite of that trait? Number 4, close your eyes. Even if you like to deny it, can you try to accept that the traits you hate in other people are a reflection of the traits you hate in yourself? Number 5, stay open to receiving how much you are like the things you hate in others, and then feel into it. Number 6, involve others in this process and ask for open feedback and discussion, and then pay attention to what people have said to you that bothered you. Number 7, why was it dangerous to display those negative traits in your life? Number 8, find approval for the negative traits you display or others display. Find aspects of that trait that you can approve and agree with. What need does it fulfill? For example, my flakiness, canceling social appointments, has protected me from overwhelm, which made me feel safe in the world. Number 9, take responsibility in a way that your behavior changes to the outcome you wish to see in others. Not all states have only negative flavors. For example, being lazy can also mean you're taking a rest. Now, a good question to ask is, what did I need back then? Can I give myself what I need now so I can show up better? And this will bring yourself closer to the aspects of yourself that you have disowned. Love this aspect of you and try not to judge it, but rather ask, what purpose does it have? Create a wider table for all the parts inside yourself. And the moment we identify with our now befriended aspects, we connect with them through a healthy attachment. The identification with them also means the attachment to them. Now, how do we express our identity in the world? All three, our body, our mind, and our emotions, is what we mostly think we are. But that's not true. Our purpose is something we can be too. Our soul is what and who we are. It is eternal. But where does the soul come from? Let's do an exercise. Identify yourself with an emotion. What emotion are you? Now, even if you want to change this identity, your ego won't let you. It will give you thoughts that question your change, and suddenly all of your stuff comes up and you avoid the learning. Your ego sees the loss of its identity as a threat to itself. Let me show you the following chart. Let's say this is your personality, where it is split between what's obvious to you, which is your conscious, and what's not obvious to you, which is your subconscious. Now, you have created a lot of thoughts in your subconscious that will dictate the behavior and the thoughts and emotions that you get to feel and be and do every day. Now, there's a gatekeeper which is trying to protect what is going back and forth between your subconscious and your conscious, and that is the ego. Now, the ego is controlling what thoughts we can release, bring them into our conscious awareness, and change to be a better and positive, let's just make a little heart, right? A better and positive thought, emotion, and feeling to then bring back into our subconscious. The problem here is that the ego doesn't like change, right? It's like a bouncer at the club, and it will always say no if you're coming with the wrong shoes. And if you're trying to change anything, it will not let you to this party. So what you need to do is to always keep going and anchor your change with a lot of positive things and keep believing the positive. And then whenever you bring that negative into a positive and you tell your subconscious, well, there was actually a good reason for me to be this way, and it's no longer a negative, it's actually something that I now integrate because I cherish this about me. It can go into the conscious and be changed. And this is how you outgo the gatekeeper, the bouncer. But what do we do when our ego tries to grip onto a negative emotion? How do we deal with emotions? What do we do when there is a very strong emotional experience? And with some support in your life, depending on where you're at in your journey, I'd like to invite you to follow the 3-step process when dealing with your emotions. Number 1, feel it and embrace it. Lean into it rather than avoiding it. Number 2, very important point, know that you are not your emotion. There's no need to identify with it. Number 3, see it more like a bodily function of your body expressing what is present for you. The same way you sneeze when you have an allergy. It's your body working for you. And then number 4, try to replace any negative thoughts with positive thoughts. This is not the solution, but it's important to keep telling your mind where this is going. This exercise we're also discussing in my 5-week workshop that I'm excited to be offering this year. Please subscribe to our newsletter and also follow my feed for regular updates on this. Now, what's really important is that we can't become a positive person overnight. And one of the main important critical things that I would like to talk to you about is called selective identification. Now, what is selective identification? It's when you decide to identify only with the positive aspects of yourself and you decline all the negative aspects. For example, I have a friend called Rama, and she likes to bring up news around friends. But the moment you ask any closer questions, her response is that she doesn't wish to gossip about other people and that she rather prefers to talk about ideas and concepts. But when you ask her to give an example about these ideas and concepts, she has no answer. Now, Rama identifies herself with a clean vest person who does not gossip, because she perceives gossip to be a negative aspect of herself. But guess what? She has done this to the extent that she lost awareness that there are any other parts. It is her discipline of self-abandonment. And this is not integration, this is selective identification. And it can become dangerous when these ego or shadow aspects continuously get suppressed and they get fueled to the point that we can no longer have conscious awareness over them. In some instances, terrifying behavior gets justified, which is doing something good when in reality it is abuse by a narcissist, psychopath, or any other similar malfunctioning personality disorder. These same fragmentations lead to shame and fear, which is something that I can guide through in my personal coaching sessions. However, if you want to heal this aspect, I advise you to work with a professional psychologist. Now let's bring this into the light of connection. Authenticity is the integration of all of our aspects. It is in that moment that all our fragments find peaceful unity. In short, love that what you are trying to push away from yourself. So what creates the rules around peaceful connection? In a state of oneness, you can't be disconnected because you are everyone else and everyone else is you. Meaning, in oneness, there is just no need for connection. Oneness is the ultimate truth of the universe, or for believers, God is our sole creator, and therefore we are always one with God in his entire creation. Now, what's the difference to intimacy? Intimacy is a meeting at the heart center where empathy and understanding occur. That also sounds like connection, but intimacy is really about the understanding that I know you so well. I know things about you that you may not even know about yourself. And then what is the difference to connection? To me, connection is feeling relaxed in the presence of someone who is deeply fond of you, and that feeling and sensation of just being truly one. What type of people do you like to be around? What are they like? Maybe make a list. Now, this list is a reflection of your preferred outside world. Your outside world is always a reflection of your inside world. Remember, when you are disconnected or isolated from others, you're disconnected and isolated within yourself. Now, how do I establish connection? Now, based on the list and items that you have written down that you like about others, this is how people feel about you too. So, are you these things? Are you empathetic, kind, nice? To sum up all of the items on your list, people are thirsty for high vibrations. So, what are high vibrational people like? Write a few things in your journal. What needs to be mentioned is that what goes up must come down. This reflects that nothing in life is always positive. If you are a high vibrational being, chances are you also had to go through extremely rough and devastating times in your life. And this is why you're here. And today, I will give you the tools to pull yourself out of your low states more quickly. This is how emotional regulation works, which I will come to in a minute. Now, my friend Maddie said to me, would you rather feel all the bandwidth of the highs and the lows and the in-betweens, or nothing at all? Which one would you pick and why? Now, regulating your thoughts is the first step to self-respect. Your thoughts become emotions, which inform your actions, which turn into patterns, which turn into your life. Let me repeat that again. Your thoughts turn into emotions, they turn into actions, and that turns into patterns, which forms your life. Let's look at our thoughts a little bit more deeply. Rule number 1, do not ever beat yourself up. Thoughts like, no one cares about me, no one likes me, or I don't matter, are entirely to be cancelled out of your vocabulary. And when it comes to emotions, the purpose of emotions is only to inform your needs. Your emotions are not you. Now, there are 2 rules. When we experience positive emotions, we are perceived as more high vibe and automatically draw people closer. And then when we experience negative emotions, we are perceived as more low vibe and automatically push people away. But there are 2 things to look out for. Number 1, when we experience negative emotions, we need to use specific tools to get us out of this state. Number 2, when we experience positive emotions, we need to discern people we attract. Often, good vibes can attract a lot of negative people because the good people who are also in high vibe don't need anything from you. But the ones with a negative bias are the ones we need to watch out for and use specific tools to keep them at a healthy distance. Now let's go back to number 1. How do I get myself out of a low vibrational state? I want you to take full responsibility. This can look different for women than for men because we women rotate our highs and lows on a monthly cycle, whereas men tend to have experiences on a daily or ad hoc frequency. The secret to this is the awareness of your emotional state. There are times when it is not the right time to socialize. And if you do socialize, you may make a huge withdrawal from someone else's emotional bank account. And that is not where you want to start. This is where the responsibility over your own behavior comes in. Now let's speak about the emotional bank account. Have you ever heard of it? Do you know what it is? The emotional bank account describes the amount of trust that has been built up in a relationship. When the trust is high, your emotional bank account is high, and communication is easy, instant, and effective. It also means that emotional reserves will compensate for mistakes made. Now, let's have a look at this. What could be some examples of major deposits and major withdrawals? Major deposits: understanding the individual, attending to little things, keeping commitments, clarifying expectations, showing personal integrity, apologizing sincerely when you made a withdrawal. Now let's talk about examples for some major withdrawals. Belittling the individual, condemning or judging them, getting angry or lashing out, criticizing them, acting deceptively, and taking advantage of the individual. I would like you to select your most important relationship. What deposits and withdrawals have you made in the last 2 to 3 weeks? And how well does your bank account balance? Now there's a clip I want you to watch right now. So stop the video and go into the additional section down below. Please have a look at the clip that I post there. Have a look at what Elizabeth Gilbert has to say in the interview with Lewis Howes, and then come back to this video. When we are in a low vibrational state, our needs for nurture aren't met, and we tend to get clingy with others, which costs them energy. You are therefore making an emotional withdrawal. When you land here, you need to cancel your social appointments because your need for connection with yourself is higher than your need for connection with others. Let me repeat that. Whenever you feel like you're getting clingy, your need for connection with yourself is higher than your need for connection with others. The answer to your need is emotional reparenting, which often stems from a lack of nurture in your childhood. However, you're no longer a child. Your emotions are now your responsibility. And whilst we can't always go back to our parents to get what we need, here's one tool that I use and love because it gives me a simple approach to dismantling and alchemizing my emotions quickly and efficiently. Here are the 3 steps that I go through every morning, and I highly recommend you taking notes and pause the video. Number 1, what is it that I'm feeling right now? Label and pinpoint your emotions as detailed as possible. If you aren't used to labeling your emotions, you can use the emotional wheel that you can find by Googling for emotional wheel. If your emotions feel stuck at this point, focus on your breath and ask yourself if there is a memory attached to it. When we get triggered, we often act childlike and like a teenager, being slightly avoidant in our behavior. Ask yourself at what age you are feeling this emotion. Number 2, with feeling the way I'm feeling, what do I need to make myself feel better? And anything is allowed here. Write it down, even if it involves others. And then number 3, how can I give myself what I need right now? And if I can't give that to myself, how can I ask for support? For this last point, what is the difference to socializing? If you straight away socialize while you are in a bad state, you don't take responsibility as you haven't scripted out where you're at and what you need and try to first provide that to yourself. Let me summarize the 3 points for you. Number 1, what is it that I'm feeling right now? Number 2, what is it that I need right now in order to make myself feel better? And then number 3, how can I give myself or ask for what I need right now. Nurture. Let's talk about this very important need we all have that we don't talk about at all. What is nurture to you? What is self-care, self-love, and self-respect? And what do they all have in common? They inform self-value. Again, the way you value yourself is how much others will value you. So what does it look like when we value ourselves? What is value-raising behavior? And what is devaluing behavior? Let me give you some examples. Let's talk about someone who is always late, or someone who always drinks more than everyone else, someone who steals, or someone who doesn't communicate back, someone who can't stop smoking, or someone who always works and is never available for life, someone who always says yes, someone who is always on their phones, and the list goes on. These are literally behaviors that devalue you because you prevent you from being your most authentic self. Are you your most authentic self when you always nag at everyone? When you choose a career to make your parents proud? When you always go to every party you are invited to? Now think about a person, maybe a sports star or a prominent figure, maybe someone in your family who you look up to and perceive as high value. And then ask yourself, what would they do? What advice would they give you? The truth is, no one is going to live your life for you. No one is going to deal with the consequences of all this low value behavior but yourself. When taking a risk, ask yourself, would I regret it later if I never tried? Now, what is authenticity? The truth of who you are and the choice to show that to the world. And what is high value authenticity? It is showing up, taking responsibility, communicating boundaries, having difficult conversations, and then self-approving temper. What else can you think of? The other big aspect that will lower your high value authenticity is your seeking of constant approval. Now let's speak about giving and receiving for a moment. We already discussed the emotional bank account. Now let's look at dependence versus keeping a sense of self. If you tend to close yourself off when someone is getting too close to your heart, chances are you haven't received emotional closeness or emotional harmony from your parents when you were young. The way you meet other people's needs, desires, and wants will reflect the unavailability that you adapted to. Let's speak about giving. Imagine all the things that you would have needed from your parents and then give those to others wholeheartedly. What are these things? Write them in your journal. Now, at this point, you might feel the risk that your brain associates with being this open, vulnerable, and open-hearted with others. It might be terrifying to you because trusting your parents with the truth of you had consequences. But what is worse, being terrified and doing it anyway, or coming to the end of your life and having missed all these opportunities to truly connect with others? You have to get comfortable with being seen fully as yourself, regardless of the fear of being judged by others. Think about one thing that I would encourage you to write down. How many true and authentic relationships may I have already missed out on by not being myself fully embodied? And what about receiving? Here's one great idea I heard about the other day. Write your needs on a piece of paper and put them somewhere in the house where they are highly visible to others. Then be open and admit them. Let others meet your need because they want to. Your happiness is their happiness. And this question goes hand in hand with whether you feel deserving of true love and connection, or if you are still protecting your undeservingness. We are slowly moving from boundaries to openness. Boundaries will feel like, when I love you, I do what you want if it feels right to me. But true openness feels a bit more like, when I let go of winning and losing, It's simple to give to you what I really want to give to you. And I'm the one who benefits. Giving to you is happiness to myself. And when you explore that further, you may come to a place where you can say, I also get to drop all my reservations about the things I thought I didn't like about you. Have you ever heard of the concept tower versus flower, where things are either built artificially and at a high rise, or they spring out organically? Once you allow yourself to be discovered as the precious pearl that you are, you may find that some people around you will drop off and stop contacting you. But know that whoever turns their back on you for you being you is worth losing, because they can no longer feed off the person that they were using. And you deserve to be seen, loved, and cherished for your inner essence, not for what you're doing or what you're having. And if you are single, know that it will take a lot of patience for you to find your person. A Toyota gets bought every day. A Maserati doesn't. The threshold to being with someone who knows their value is higher and therefore requires a higher investment on many levels. You have to be okay with more rejections than approvals, and that's just fine. So how do I attract new people into my life? Why new people? We may end up with many people around us and not get our needs met, even if we already tried to meet them fully ourselves, which means we took 100% responsibility for the mess we're in and also asked for support. But if you come to this point where your people see that you are struggling and they are not open and willing to give you the time in the day, they are not your people. Again, here you have to take responsibility for yourself and walk away. Make space for those people who are for you. The longer you entertain what's not for you, the longer you postpone what is. And then find people who help you help yourself. And whoever is standing in between you and love as a reflection of you must go. Ask yourself, where else in my life am I not taking responsibility for my situation? Where else in my life am I not showing up for others? Where else in my life am I accepting lies, deception, and manipulation without calling it out or walking away? You know there will be a time when you requested from your loved ones 1,000,000 times to not be treating you this way, to not hurt you and take from you. But a clown will always be a clown. You need to ask yourself why you keep going to the circus. And that is the main secret. If you want to attract new people into your life, you have to first make space for them energetically, meaning creating a safe, warm, kind, and authentic space in your heart for them to come into. And they will come if you continue to nurture yourself and feed your needs first. And know that you're someone divine. No one can be like you if you are you. No one can compete with that. I can try to be like you, however, no one owns your essence but you. When you're out socializing, never assume that you know how someone's day and week is going. Stay open and curious to exploring others and make it about them. Again, people will never forget how you make them feel, but don't give more than what you can afford. Here are 3 things to stay in a higher vibrational state. That's language, emotions, and mindset. Let's have a look at them. Language. What is language? It's your words and energy. Language forms thought, which forms emotions. But your language can also shape your thoughts, and your thoughts can shape your language before they shape your emotion. So let's have an example. What are the differences between the following statements? You need to take out the trash. The trash needs to be removed. Would you be so kind to help me? Can you please be on time? I would love for us to start on time. You and I should go out. I like you. I really can't resist it when you wear that kind of jacket. By the way, I teach flirting skills in my personal coaching container. The difference between these statements is the energy, which is the number 1 component in our communication. It is mostly transmitted through your body language and your being, which is the state you're in. So how can you impact the state you're in? You always come back to nurturing your needs and fill your cup. Let's have a look at emotions. Your emotions entirely impact your vibration. We already spoke about this, but there are two things that you can do. You can either suppress them or you can work through them. I personally don't like suppressing my emotions. I prefer working through them. This comes back to asking myself honestly how I feel and what I need to make myself feel better. And sometimes I need to have a cry or a sweat and I go to the gym and doing things at a full speed to clear my head. I prefer this than being stuck overanalyzing. This is very important as your validation for your emotions doesn't rely on anyone outside of yourself, even if it feels good talking about it. When I'm in a bad state, I can indulge myself in dumping my emotions onto my friends. This can become addictive if you don't learn how to self-validate and regulate your emotions. When you do emotional dumping, you are making a huge withdrawal with others. This doesn't mean you can't share how you feel with others, but there's a fine line between a statement like, "Today I'm feeling a bit overcast. It's always good to use the weather. Let me work this through and I'll come back to you." And the statement, "I'm so irritated. My friend just said this thing to me and now I feel like she doesn't like me and I question our friendship," and you get the point. Often our triggers that come up, starting our emotional machine, have a much deeper root cause than we think. You can ask yourself, what is really going on for me? If I remove all these superficial irritators, what's coming up for me underneath all that? Your emotions and the vibrations you carry out into this world are your responsibility. Let's have a look at mindset. Actually, let's play with mindset. I want you to close your eyes. To prime your mindset, I want you to forget how you feel about other people. Imagine you live in a world where you have no thoughts about other people, where every impression is a new one, and where you deeply know that everyone always has your best interest at heart. People love you. They appreciate, respect, and value you like the most precious gift that they have ever been given. They admire your courage and warmth. They are obsessed with your smile and love your jokes and enjoy every minute that they get to be around you. You and them are utterly relaxed in each other's presence. You can almost pin the love that's in the air between you. That's how full it is. You are deeply in love with life and they love that for you. I would like you to repeat the following before you go to bed tonight. Now open your eyes and write down in your journal, "People love to be around me." Now this is just one way of how we can work with our mindset. Now let's talk about boundaries. Such a buzzword. Boundaries, what are they? Boundaries show where one thing ends and the other begins. Boundaries in relationships are kind of like this. They help each person figure out where one person ends and the other person begins. For you, they define how you would like to be treated. Nowadays, we're often taught that we need to have more boundaries and communicate them, with the mistake that we are thinking about the other person being impacted by our boundaries. We believe that boundaries are rules that control or change someone else's behavior. But that is the exact opposite of how boundaries work. Boundaries are rules that you create about your own behavior, and they have a consequence attached to them. How do I create a boundary? Focus on yourself and what you will and won't allow. For example, you have a friend who always goes on about politics. It absolutely drains your energy and you do not want them to talk about politics around you. They find that they can generally speak about politics, but not when you're being impacted. If you were just to bluntly tell them, "Please stop speaking about politics," guess what will happen? Exactly. They now pressure test you and they speak about nothing but politics. So not the best call. So ask yourself, what is in my circle of control and what can I do about it? Make a clear choice and then communicate. I love you and I would love to have dinner with you, but if you are going to talk about politics, we are not going to have dinner together. Now, this statement shows you are prepared to walk away, and it shows you value your peace and time. You are the one who has to respect your own boundaries. And the minute they start talking about politics, dinner is over and you remove yourself. This is the consequence that you respect. And it is not a boundary for you if you don't respect the consequence, which is also a sign that you don't respect yourself. If you are a yes sayer, your no's don't have a lot of value. No one values a freebie, especially the opposite sex. If you're single, people respect and appreciate what they have invested in. Now, the communication of your boundary should have two components. Number one, what has to change, which is your wished outcome. And number two, your consequence. What are you going to do? Now, let me ask you, who feels more toxic when you haven't said a word? You can't be mad at someone who crossed the line that they didn't even know existed. Boundaries are self-care. What has worked well for me is to set boundaries for my own emotional regulation. Now, I only put boundaries in place when I feel I have got something to protect, when I truly see a value in myself. Now, who you are and what you have are worth protecting. You are worthy. But what do boundaries truly do? They give me the ability to love myself and you equally. When connecting with someone, ask yourself the following 3 questions. Number 1, are you both coming from a healthy place? Why do you like them? Number 2, is this person offering an investment? Are they coming to fill your emotional bank account or make withdrawals? Number 3, does this attraction require self-betrayal? Do you need to step away from yourself to meet their requests? Now, ultimately, we want to come from boundaries and move into connection. An essential piece to inviting someone into your life is to make a judgment based on how much they are invested in you, not by how much you like them. If they aren't invested in you, you are not just letting them go, but you are making space for better to come in. It's essential to be able to love with boundaries, not with walls. When you find someone you truly click with, may this be a romantic bond, a friendship, or even rekindling with your family, then invite them in and love them with boundaries. Whilst walls are created to keep someone out, boundaries allow you to feel safe by inviting them into your world. If you feel like your needs aren't being met, ask for what you want. Know that their answer has nothing to do with how much they love you. Be fine with whatever it is. The opposite is also true. If you are asked and it is not okay for you, it has nothing to do with your love for them. When you give something to someone, it's because you decided to do so and you don't require anything in return. You give out of love, which is a gift to you. When we like someone, we produce our own biochemicals in our body that produce joy and excitement, which doesn't transfer to the other person to make them love you. You can't take your emotions and transplant them into the other person. They have to produce their own biochemicals to have a crush on you, which is entirely out of your control. If you try to make them love you, you will never know how they truly feel about you. But it's not about playing games either. If something is off, it usually is off. And then you get to decide how you are going to respond. Now here's an easy template to have a difficult conversation. Describe the emotion that you're experiencing, and then name something that the other person has done positive. Let them know how you truly feel about them, which usually is love. And then tell them that you don't know if they know this because of the action that they've taken. And then openly ask, I just want to know if we can find common ground. It is very important to never make the person the issue, but keep the issue that you're both aiming to solve. And here are some concluding thoughts. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, which is a quote by Marcus Aurelius. As you now come to the end of this workshop, I would like to leave you with the way forward, tying it all together. It is wonderful to learn new things, but knowledge without action is just an empty shell, and it does not make you a better person. If you really want to improve the way you think, then you have to turn your thoughts into words and your words into actions. Programming is difficult to break, but this is where discipline becomes a huge part of self-love, to stay on target for your future self. The flower doesn't sit around waiting for the bee to arrive. The flower first blossoms and then the bee arrives. It is about eating healthy, managing your emotions and your biochemistry, to spend time in reflections, to read more books, to spend less time on your phone, to smile at a stranger, to offer support, to be an anchor to someone. What are some other things you can think of? Write them in your journal. And we will now come to the final point, the summary of the 7 steps. But before we do, there's one quick announcement. I will be running a 5-week course in the upcoming months. It's all about becoming whole, where we will be using this course as a basis guide to start putting things into actions. There are exercises on how we are fully being seen, how to step into our authenticity, and much more. We will practice moving from separation to wholeness together in a community of like-minded people. This will be a very playful and interactive course. It's a lot of fun and you won't be the same afterwards. If you are interested in joining this 5-week course, please send me a message or book a discovery call. Okay, without further ado, here are the 7 steps from loneliness to connection. Number 1, have a routine. Number 2, manage your biochemistry. Do exercise, get a dopamine release, and also have a healthy diet. This is where your self-worth starts. Number 3, check in with your needs. Assess if it's time to grieve or to socialize. Know that your sadness may also be grief, not loneliness. Very different, but often confused. Number 4, stop controlling. Drop everything and step back into a high vibrational state. Number 5, have boundaries and consequences. Number 6, fill someone else's emotional bank account. And number 7, give yourself time, because this is also a form of self-acceptance. Thank you so much for the time that you have invested in yourself today. If you have any follow-up questions or are interested in one-on-one coaching with me, please send me a message and book a discovery call today. Have a beautiful day. Bliss and bless.